lights on and prices low, care about the environment.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the regular Planning Commission meeting of Tuesday, June 20th, 2017. The first item for business is plans, policies, ordinance for discussion only. City of Stillwater, discussion of walkability, concept, and potential application.
Good evening. Paula Dennison in Development Services. And I really don't have anything prepared for discussion. Y'all saw the piece that was included in your packets, and this is just a point to begin discussion of walkability in our community. A couple of things that I do want to bring to your attention. The City of Stillwater passed a multimodal transportation policy in March of 2016. And that encourages streets, not every street because it's not proper on every single street, to be designed to provide transportation modes for all types of transportation. But it does encourage any designs of streets to look at what is proper, what is appropriate, what is fitting for that classification of street that's being designed and built, and to further look at linking all of those streets together. After the multimodal policy, the Bike and Pedestrian Ad Hoc Committee was formed, and that was a large group of 40-ish. Mr. Buchert serves on there.
Yes.
It was about 40 folks that were heavily involved from OSU Bus, OSU, pedestrians, bicyclists, just lay citizens who saw a need for a focus on bicycling and walking opportunities throughout our community. So they're still meeting, I understand, and implementing some of the ideas that they have brought back to the council and are supported by the city. Another component that we have is our Stillwater Transportation Enhancement Plan, which is our STEP, or our transportation plan. The current plan that we're operating under is very heavy on automobiles. It's a lot of pavement, it's a lot of let's plan for those automobiles and how many and how do we get them from here to there. The update that we're currently in the midst of is going to incorporate ideas from the Bike and Ped Ad Hoc Committee, or BPAC. It's going to incorporate the bicycle and multi-trails plan that the City of Stillwater has, and it's just going to holistically look at this multimodal transportation policy that we have to evaluate where, what, and how folks move in and throughout our community. So we were asked to just advise y'all and let you know that this piece on walkability is out here, and see what conversations that would start from the Planning Commission, and from that we can move forward. Everybody had a chance to look over it? What'd you think?
I liked it.
Ariel's grinning. I know what she thinks.
Do you want to say something, or?
Well, I mean, I guess from the perspective of someone who walks or rides bikes more often than I drive, I'm all for anything that makes neighborhoods, not just neighborhoods, but the entire city, more susceptible to moving around in ways other than by car. And I thought there were a lot of great ideas in the article.
The form-based code area, it seemed like this fit into that area, and we probably need to look at these basic concepts in the form base and see if we can make some adjustments to get closer to this area. In the form-based code area, I saw the trees, and the trees are here. I saw the benches and walkways. But one of the things that they talked about here that I remember is a lot of glass on the first floor. And I didn't see that in the form-based code, and maybe we need to look at that. In the transition from use to use needs to be not a significant distance. They talked about 30 or 40 foot, and that has not been incorporated in the code as much as maybe we would like to. But I saw a lot of the street design and the trees and the sidewalks being very similar in nature. I think another plan that I remember we've done over the last few years is, I may not have the plan name correct, is the connection between downtown and OSU and the streets involved in that. And I think incorporating, I think the basis of that plan, talking about similar concepts, but incorporating this to a greater degree, I think would be very important. The one item that is always a challenge, been a challenge in my career, is where does the money come from? So you can implement this, and what are your priorities on how to implement that? And we've had a lot of discussion in the Bike Pedestrian Committee on that. In fact, after over a year of meeting, we've concluded that the plans that the city's done in the past are excellent. They've got a lot in the multimodal trail plan is excellent. Sidewalk plan, the step plan needs to be updated, but it had a good basis. The challenge is, where do we get the money to implement the trails? Where do we get the money to redo the sidewalks to make them ADA compliant? We have significant street needs, not only in maintenance and street widening, but we need to balance that with the needs in sidewalks and trails and how you get that money, how much of it's public, how much is private, and how do you induce to get that private money, whether it is forced through development requirements or other methods, is always an interesting and long discussion. That's my comment.
Very well said, Mike. My thoughts, I mean, it's a great concept, and I think it's the wave of the future. I think cars are going to become, less of our primary means of transportation, I hope. Obviously, I could use some more walking, so I'm all about making it easy, but all joking aside, one thing I see, of course, we have in our codes, new developments, sidewalks, that kind of thing. Maybe we could take that a little step farther. I wouldn't be opposed to mandatory parks in any development. Again, I know it's an issue for the city because typically those get dedicated back to the city for maintenance. So again, the dollar sign rears its ugly head, but I think it would kind of help go toward the concept of this, at least in the residential areas. I think the other challenge we have here in Stillwater is the fact that our two main thoroughfares are state highways. And obviously that's a huge challenge in trying to implement sidewalks and actually implement this. Good news is, a lot of times they help pay for it or pay for it. So, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. But again, you do it at their pleasure. And so I know that's always been a challenge for us. But, I agree with Mike. I think the form-based code area, is probably definitely a focal point for us to try to start down the path of walkability. So I definitely support anything that goes along, especially in that area, with this concept.
I do want to make a comment because I think Oklahoma Tower and Transportation, ODOT's come a long way in the last 15 years. And their Perkins plan, where they have an extra wide sidewalk on one side and they've limited the number of driveways, I think is an excellent plan and really is a good balance between all the transportation modes. What we need to do is do similar things on the rest of Perkins and especially on Highway 51 6th Street. And we need to make that, in my opinion, a 5-lane road with sidewalks, extra wide sidewalks on one side, so we can get multimodal type transportation down there. Now, 6th and Perkins, to me, need the capability of carrying lots of vehicles because people want to drive on those. But other streets, we need to look at putting on a little diet. Now, not too much of a diet. I've had this discussion with you, Paul. I'm not in favor of 9, 10-foot lanes, but I am in favor of 11-foot lanes, which is, less than what I was in favor 10 years ago. So I'm changing, Paula, you're changing me. So, but I think that.
You're a work in progress,
Yeah,
Mike.
work in progress. But I think we can look at that. We need to look at some of those streets through the step plan and look at the capacity and number of lanes and those sort of things, so we can make our city more bicycle friendly. We've had a lot of discussion in the bicycle committee on whether you ought to be in the street, whether you be in a bicycle lane or a sidewalk. And there's certain people that have strongly stated being on the sidewalk is the most unsafe way to ride a bike. I ride my bike on the sidewalk and I am scared to be in the street. But I have a 1-speed bicycle that goes 1 speed and that's slow. And to me, it's the safest way to go. When I'm on the sidewalk, I do everything a pedestrian would do. Stop at the intersection, wait for cars to go by, wait for the walk signal. To me, that's the safest thing for me. But there's other people that want to be in that road, and they have the right to be in that road, and we need to make it safe for them and put up the proper signage. So we not only need to think about all modes of transportation, but the different type of people and how they use the transportation. So people that walk and do bikes can go to the areas they need to go to, whether it's from home to work or recreational purposes or other purposes. So I think we've got an excellent basis of a plan. I think we can make some changes to it. This commission can be involved in that, and then it just takes money.
I was noticing also reading the article that some things reminded me of the overlay district and the details that we were talking about with regard to kind of the area near the hospital, like limiting the size of businesses. It talked about, I think Mike mentioned this, like people lose interest if a business is too long, so keeping the length of businesses short so you're moving past. So I think maybe that area as well kind of figures into neighborhoods we could look at.
When I was reading through it, when I first came up on it, and then subsequently after I've read through it, there's a lot of land development code topics in this short little article. There's a lot of neighborhood topics in this article, and I love the graphic that they have, and I've got it pulled up on the screen if the video folks want to just pop it up there right quickly. But instead of me on the television, pop this up. It talks about, there it is, how many different areas of the community need to be involved for it to be successful. And we certainly don't want to try anything if it's not guaranteed some level of success, because right here, work sites, park and rec facilities, of course, transportation and land use, and the community development, healthcare professionals, individuals and families, schools, the media, all of those different groups coming together. I'll throw neighborhoods in there. I'll throw Oklahoma State University in there. I'll throw ODOT in there. Because of all of them coming together, we can do something to make real change in this community. We just need a place to start, and y'all are an excellent sounding board. You represent such a diversity of this community in setting, okay, what can the city require or support to be done from the community development and land development standpoint, and the master planning, of course.
Paula, have you seen anything on, I know having on some land along Perkins Road that I guess the plan is to 5-lane Perkins, what in 2020, I think is what my paperwork said, from McElroy to Lakeview.
Yes.
And I guess drainage structures, all of that. Has any thought been put into that plan as far as, this type of stuff?
Not that I'm aware of. I do know that in the preliminary discussions with ODOT and with previous city staff, their neighborhoods, business owners and residential neighborhoods around that section were involved and invited to 2 or 3 or 4 meetings just to talk about what issues they encounter and what ideas that they would have that would make their quality of life better and better able to get around from a transportation standpoint. I do not know, I have not seen any even preliminary, concept designs of it, but that's an excellent thing that we can follow up on. And as this conversation continues, we'll be happy to share that with the commission.
That'd be great, thank you.
One thing that I was thinking, I'm trying to think about the places I walk regularly, and living downtown, which I think is, an area that you want to be pretty walkable. I walk to the library, I walk to Walgreens, most of the places I walk, I can't get there without running into a place where there's not a sidewalk, or I have to cross the street to get to the sidewalk. So I feel like it would be beneficial to think about, in the neighborhoods we're focusing on for walkability, making sure that the sidewalks are consistent, maybe in terms of what side of the road they're on, so that it's not breaks in the sidewalk. I don't know. It's kind of a random thought.
And that's a good point. It has always been a,
I know it's really contingent on.
almost an obstacle, because from the development standpoint, new goes in, which
Right.
side of the street,
Right.
Sure.
who is responsible for it, the developer or the home builder, in those cases. But so many of these neighborhoods that are developing with the use of bicycles or pedestrians using them more are the original town neighborhoods, that sidewalks, if they were built so many years ago. Walking down through there, are they really 4 feet wide now?
True, with approved ramps and, not
View
very user-friendly a lot of
connections, yes.
time.
So there are many opportunities. And like Commissioner Buchert said, where's the money?
President Harkins likes to give a little speech about telling his children they want to do something, and he goes, there's 3 reasons why we can't do that. The number 1 reason is we don't have money. And the children ask him, well, what are the number 2 and number 3? And he goes, it doesn't matter. If you don't have the money, you can't do it. So that's where we're at. I think we got a lot of great plans. I think we have a lot of great plans for additional sidewalks, for sidewalk repair, widening. I think we've got a lot of great plans for trails and other features. We're going to get the money to implement this, and over what time frame?
So maybe, if I may suggest, if you want to move forward with keeping walkability in the back of your head, then from the Planning Commission's role in the city, think about what changes to the land development code, because staff is working on updating the land development code, and we'll have that to you 6 to 9 months, hopefully. Think about changes to that. Think about, in our master plans that we are currently working on, what ideas can we put into those plans that will set the stage for possible grant funding, possible opportunities for private development to say, this is a great idea, let's try something new and exciting in Stillwater while we're working on developing and serving in other means for the citizens here. So I think that would be a really good position for the Planning Commission to take if you do choose to want to consider this further, and it sounds like you do.
Oh, I have a question. Has there ever been a study done on actual pedestrian traffic? I know we have with vehicles.
And we did with bikes as well. There was the
Right,
app
right.
you could use to.
But I don't know that anybody's ever counted people in a particular area.
Staff and I were talking about that, and there is a group, I don't know if their official name is Walk Score, but they assign a score to pretty much the walkability of communities, and it's called your Walk Score. And you can find Stillwater's Walk Score. Now, did we see a mass of people walking around with counters or identifying, any obstacles in their path? I don't recall it. I don't know if it's how they
It has to do with
determine
like
that.
what amenities you can reach within your neighborhood. A lot of it does.
So it's not necessarily as much a true count and identification of, are there continuous connections throughout the community to get from destination to destination or something like that. We have also discussed performing a walkability study, just to get out there and have a group of volunteers go out. We've got one right here now. Go out and can you walk throughout the community? Divide it up in segments. Can you walk throughout the community? If you can, do you encounter any obstacles? If you cannot, why not? And get that hard data, so therefore we could really build, budget, provide from.
Yeah, that's kind
That's
of
a great
where I
place
was,
to start.
Trying to lead with that, It's kind of the old eating an elephant theory, If we can get it narrowed down, then we
Yeah.
can get one bite at a time going here possibly with the current funding, that may be available. But again, we want to get our biggest bang for our buck also, where it's either the worst or where we have the most folks in need, so.
And if I'm not mistaken, the BPAC committee might have briefly talked about a similar study from a pedestrian standpoint.
Yes, we had talked about it, really hadn't done anything with that. Now, Oklahoma State University a few months ago did along Hall of Fame and McElroy, in and around, essentially from Duck over to Western, did a traffic, pedestrian, and bicycle count study and came up with recommendations that we're working with the city to implement those, which included some wider sidewalks along Hall of Fame to get more pedestrians through quicker, and then changing some of the traffic signal timing. So we're working on that particular issue, and those are items that don't cost very much money. Adding left turn lanes, adding right turn lanes, those sort of things cost a lot of money, and that was not part of the initial recommendation.
Sounds like there may be another group that we could at least pull from
Yes.
an experience standpoint. Okay.
Thank you very much. So I think, do we want to have them continue along with their,
Yeah, I'd appreciate a report back, see how things are coming along and maybe some recommendations from some of the ad hoc committees on especially changes to the code, the development code, if that's what we need to do.
It's probably about time. We're still meeting, staff is still meeting and going through the land development code, and of course, we're arm wrestling because of our different opinions and positions on it. But it's probably about time that we at least give you an update of where we are in the LDC update, and a couple of things that you can look for and be thinking about that can have some pretty significant change to the way the community develops. We can be happy to bring that back to you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank y'all.
very much?
Thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
Okay. We'll now have approval of the meeting summary for discussion and possible action of the regular meeting summary of June 6, 2017.
Move for approval.
I'll second.
Gentlemen, ladies, we didn't have the voting machine.
Okay.
Take over for roll call.
All right, moved and seconded, yes.
So I have a motion made by Mr. Booker, second by Mr. Lane to approve the minutes as presented. Mr. Rippleman,
Yes.
Mr. Lane.
Yes.
Mr. Booker.
Yes.
And Ms. Ross.
Yes.
Minutes are approved as presented.
Motion passes. Last item is miscellaneous items from staff, discussion and possible action. Next Planning Commission meeting, July 11th, 2017. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Yes.
Mr. Lane.
Yes.
Yes.
And Ms. Ross.
Yes.
We stand adjourned.
Thank you all very much.